Big thanks to Kamado Joe for sponsoring this episode.
Lately I've been replacing my dry rubs more and more with fresh made spices, and it's blowing my mind on how powerful and how potent those are. But I want to figure out how that works on barbecue. Are ribs going to taste better with a good dry rub, or are they going to taste better with fresh spices? And therefore I selected these two beautiful ribs. These are thick meat ribs, baby back ribs. It's almost 2 fingers thick. These ribs are gonna be juicy and succulent no matter what, that's for sure. And I think these are the perfect test subjects. Of course, the first thing that I'm gonna do is cut into the membrane, make sure that the spices and the fresh herbs are going to be able to penetrate from the back as well as from the front. Penetrate from the back and from the front. I never said it. I never said it. And now that they're all prepped up, time to make the spice mixes. First I'm gonna make the PitmasterX classic barbecue rub. Of course, you can find the recipe of that for a link down below in the video. I'm gonna mix it up, put on my shaker cap, and this is ready to go. And now I'm going to make the fresh spice mix, which consists of the same ingredients, except these are fresh, real fresh. Look, catch.
Come on, man.
You flinched. Fresh ingredients are freaking scary. I'm going to start by chopping fine an onion, a whole big Spanish onion. I'm going to follow that up by chopping fine 5 garlic cloves, followed by a red bell pepper. These are the exact same ingredients that are in the dry rub. I'm going to put them in my mortar and pestle and I'm going to crush them fine. Of course, I'm going to end up with a crunchy consistency. I'm not going to get everything super fine, but that's just fine because it's going to dry out on the outside of the ribs. Just like you get a crust with dry rub, you're also going to get a crust with these fresh ingredients. But now it's going to need salt. That's going to help to turn this fresh spice mix into a real nice thick consistency. Of course, if you're not willing to put in the elbow grease like I am, you can do this in a blender. That's just fine. Chunky consistency is what makes the difference for me. And if I put it in a blender, it's something like that, but it's just not the same. Like the new Volkswagen bus. It's beautiful. Designed technically, it looks like the old VW van, but it's not the same. And here we have our two options. The PitmasterX Classic Dry Rub. You can't fail with this. If you put it on chicken, if you put it on pork, if you even put it on beef, it's going to taste amazing. Now on the other hand, I have here the newcomer. Exactly the same ratio as we have here, but then fresh. And before I put these on my ribs, I want to taste them as they are right now and see what the differences are. Now with dry rubs, it's a little bit more difficult to taste it as it is because it will develop as it gets more moist. But there we go. It is salty, and that is important because the salt really boosts the flavors when it goes onto the meat, but it clearly has that paprika onion chips style of flavor, and it's really tasty. Now let's try the fresh herb one. Well, this is something that I've been experimenting with for the past couple of weeks, and it really starts to grow on me. So let's see if this works. It's refreshing. I don't know, this is difficult. It has so much more depth of profile and flavor. It's just not one flavor. If you have dried onion powder, it tastes like a straight line of onion. It's onion. But if you have fresh onion, it has all these different flavors. Watching a white light and then compare it to a rainbow. This is the rainbow and this is the white light. But the test gets way better when we put that dry rub on the ribs as well as the fresh spice mix. Then we're really gonna figure out which one of these is best. Now the ribs are all prepped up and I'm gonna leave them on the board for around 10 minutes to soak up the flavors. The dry rub needs that salt to draw out the moisture so the dry rub will actually stick to the ribs, and the fresh spice mix needs time to get sucked into the ribs with the osmosis effect. Coffee? Or we could fire up the Kamado Joe. The Kamado Joe Big Joe is a big barbecue. I'm gonna fill it up till the air holes of the firebox. That's gonna be more than enough charcoal to keep this barbecue hot for at least 8 hours. And to fire it up for smoking, I'm only going to use 2 fire starters because I only need a temperature of around 120 degrees Celsius. So I'm going to take it slow and I don't need a big fire to start this thing up. And once lit, I'm going to add a chunk of smokewood. But the way I'm going to position it is over the direct fire. And then I'm going to take another chunk and I'm going to place it a little bit further away. So I'm going to have continuous smoke throughout the cook. Time to place in the heat deflectors, put in the grill grates. And this is the perfect setup to smoke ribs. I got heat deflectors protecting the ribs from radiation heat. I got smoke twirling up onto the grill grates. And I got plenty of space for plenty of ribs. Time to close the lid. Dial in the top vent to 2 fingers open and the bottom vent to 1 finger open. I'm gonna slowly let the Big Joe come up to a temperature of 120 degrees Celsius. And once it's there, I'm gonna stabilize it by closing the bottom vent even further. Look at how the rub picked up that moisture. That's what I'm looking for. These are gonna go on the Kamado Joe Big Joe. And of course my fresh spice mix ribs are gonna go in side by side. And to make it easy for me, I'm gonna stick in a thermometer. Because this is a trick that I use that I don't tell anybody about other than you. Ribs have a perfect temperature, which is 92 degrees Celsius. Now let's close the lid and let these ribs smoke. You know, they cook dinosaurs these days. I heard that they have these Joe Rogan thing where they have the...
So the whole thing was frozen solid?
Yeah,
like a steak?
like a shoe leather.
Well, of course, they're very thick.
Papa, dinosaur. I just got the notification that my ribs reached the core temperature of 92 degrees Celsius in just 3.5 hours. And the grill was running a little hotter than I would have liked. As you would expect, the dry rub ribs look really good. They picked up a nice bit of smoke color. They look fantastic. With the fresh spice mix, it looks completely different. We got all the chunky bits from the spice mix. And what stands out is that they look absolutely nothing like the dry rub ribs. I'm not done with these yet. I'm going to both take them off the barbecue and let them rest in aluminum foil for at least 30 minutes. Half hour. And half hour I had to wait for this. For you, this is just, it's not even a second, right? But me, a half hour looking at aluminum foil, knowing what is inside. I don't know which one is which, so I'm just gonna pack them. Ooh, yes. Dry rub ribs, rested and ready to be eaten. And look at this beauty. You can smell the rub, you can smell the pork meat. And notice how we carved it and the membrane pulled away from the bone. You can see that they're done. I could just tear this up. Don't want to, but look right there. I could tear this up. Was basically the proof that cooking your ribs to 92 degrees Celsius, then putting them in aluminum foil and let them rest, is going to make them absolutely perfect. Now, since I want a clean cut, let's slice into it and take a look inside. We got a nice smoke ring, we got juicy ribs. Let's give them a try. Now, we're getting to the experiment part because this is my first time. Ooh, they look kind of cool. Whoa! Like the smell that comes out of this is like paprika, bomb, but fresh, you know, like fresh, tasty paprika. Hit my nose. Let's slice into this. Beautiful juicy ribs, smoke ring. Let's get a slice out of this. Is this a good idea, putting fresh spices onto your ribs, or should you just stick to that good old dry rub? There we go. This is one of those days that I realized that not everything works out the way I planned it in my head. It's not that these don't taste good, it's just not barbecue. It's just not the same thing. Whereas with the grilled ribs, it was absolutely freaking amazing. Now it is kind of like, I don't know, bland and mushy, and even though you could smell it real good, it doesn't taste really powerful. And I'm kind of sad because I really wanted this to be a success, but I'm calling it a fail.
That's some Wild West shit.